Hey everybody, it is Sipping with Sue time. You know what time it is. I'm Szu-Moy, and again, we are back on another Friday evening, afternoon to go ahead and decompress and relax and grab a drink and talk with real people doing real things extraordinarily. And before I bring my guest on, I did want to give a shout out and an absolute Viva, Chin Chin, and cheers to all of our mothers out there. I know that Sunday is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all of you moms out there. And for you dads that are doing double duty and playing mom and dad, happy Mother's Day to you too. So happy Mother's Day to all of my beautiful ladies and our guys too out there. I hope you guys have a relaxing and enjoying Sunday this Sunday, and I hope it's great. I know I'm going to be relaxing and hanging out with mom, so it'll be good. So now I'd like to bring on my guest. I've got Josh Littleton here. He's the Director of Development for Excelsis Behavioral Health. How are you?
Hi, just checking, Szu-Moy. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Fantastic.
Success! Technology demons do not exist today.
Yay, and I'm so
Hi.
happy.
So good to be here with you.
It's so good to see you again. It's fantastic. I'm so excited. So where's your
Let me
drink? We're doing cheers.
cheers. So go local, right?
Cheers.
Or
Oh, go
quarantine
local.
AF. Um, I mean, it's been a year.
It's been
And
a year.
definitely
And yeah.
quarantine bodies are a thing.
Yeah, quarantine bodies are a thing. A lot of adult beverages and
Ah,
libations are a thing too, and this is a
mhm.
thing, but I like it because we get to chat even though you're from Tampa, so you're in Tampa right now, right? In
Truly, yeah.
the Florida area. I'm in Texas, so this is still a good platform and avenue, and I'm grateful to COVID for that, because outside of this I wouldn't really be doing this and we wouldn't be talking right now, so I'm at
Right,
least
who would have
thankful for
thought?
that.
Yeah. Bridging that geographic divide, Szu-Moy, you're great at that.
With video, there we go. Exactly. So welcome, Josh. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. And so I met Josh actually, was it last week? I
A little
literally met
bit.
Josh, yeah, last week, and we had a little Zoom session and we chatted, and we got put together from my sister. My sister said, "Hey, he would be great for your show," and I was like, "Okay, let's chat and talk." And so Josh and I got together, and it seemed like I met him right there and then on Zoom, and it was like I've known you forever, but I haven't. We're
Instant
like,
connection. You recognize warm people when you see them, and you are
I
definitely
love
that
it.
warm person for me.
Awesome. I love it. Well, same. I love it. And I love your sweater or your shirt.
Thank you. It is a sweater. I did jump
Okay.
into my husband's closet. I was like, Nick, I need something fun. I just have like starched up clothes when I'm like having people in my practice, right? I was like, I need something
Yes.
fun. So
Yeah.
we are avid watchers, and Jen in the chat might know.
Okay.
Schitt's Creek, anybody?
Of Yes.
That has been our binge watch of choice.
Mhm.
In here in Tampa. And
Of
so,
course.
anxiety is not going away. And if
Hmm.
anything, it's
Hmm.
just exacerbated just a lot of
Hmm.
the issues that we've been having just as individuals, as adults living in a
Hmm.
pandemic world, right? And so, Schitt's Creek is just a nice respite of 30 minutes
Of fun.
television.
Of
Yeah.
fun. Of
And so
absolute fun.
this,
Oh, David. Oh, David.
yeah,
Ew.
so this is inspired by David. Yeah.
I love Schitt's Creek, and the folks that haven't watched it, and I was like, well, I mean, people have watched it when it actually was starting, whatever, when it first came out, and it's like so late to the whole bandwagon. And my friend Wendy was like, "Oh my gosh, you haven't watched Schitt's Creek? You need to watch it." And I was like, "Okay." So we sat and binge watched, I don't know, a couple episodes, and then the guys were like, "Okay, this is ridiculous. You need to get off the couch and get out of here." And so oh my gosh, I went home and then we got the subscription to it's Netflix, right? I think it's on
Yes.
Netflix. Yeah,
Hmm.
and and then I binge watched. So hubby and I binge watch the rest of it, and it was fantastic. So yeah, I love it, and I love all that. So I'm a huge 30 Seconds to Mars fan, and my Echelon family knows
Uh,
this, and so all the
mhm.
references to Jared Leto were fabulous.
Always accepted here and celebrated.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So much fun, and I love it. I love it so much. But so that's how we met. And I wanted to bring you on because, again, May is a lot of things for observation months and stuff. And one of them is also Mental Health Awareness Month. And being
Mm,
that you're in the practice that you're in, I wanted to bring you on and kind of shed light on a difficult topic and a difficult subject, and kind of just talk about a little bit about your background and about what we can do to identify mental health issues and how to kind of alleviate those. So give us a little background on what you do in your practice.
sure. So it's definitely a labor of love,
Yeah.
getting to this place in time. Um, my background comes with working in the inpatient mental health arena in the Augusta, Savannah area in the state of Georgia. And
Okay.
so just being able to work with severe and persistent mental illness and sometimes realizing that life dealt you a hand
Mm-hmm.
of cards, and it's just trying to make sense of what life has given you, whether it be a genetic predisposition or whether it just be stressors that are weighing in on you and your mind and your emotional state, just trying to react and maneuver the best way that they can. And so about 3 years ago, made my way down to Tampa and met your sister, Suyin, right?
Yes.
And but she was kind of aligned with me as I was ramping up speed and got established over at Excelsis Behavioral Health, right? And so she was a definite ally in the process of establishing a lot of our marketing efforts there. But for Excelsis, what I do and what the group does is we just provide outpatient mental health services for anybody. Whether you are an itty bitty all the way up to a senior, and anything in between, we cover you. And there's about 8 clinicians in our practice. And Szu-Moy, it's so nice to see this rich blend of individuals, um, each with their own unique expertise and target area. So, like for me, I deal with the queer community, I deal with adolescents on up, and really love engaging in anxiety, depression, and then just relational issues and clinical sexology. We'll get to that one.
Okay.
Um, but between the 8 clinicians that we have there, we're able to provide services for anybody, everybody, and most importantly, be able to operate in the insurance panels outside of those, and then ultimately sliding scale if we need to, because everybody should be able to be afforded mental health services, and it shouldn't be
Mhm.
something that's just held to people, within the means to be able to afford something like that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then so explain a little bit about those tracks that you're specific to in your area of expertise.
Yeah, sure. Um, so I had a previous mentor that once said to me, you know, it's kind of like life will kind of choose where you need to go. Yeah. And for me, I said, you know what? I want to work with dissociation, developmental identity disorder. I just get really jazzed about how interesting the brain maneuvers in situations like that. But what came in my client base was couples,
Mm-hmm.
uh, adolescents at that kind of precipice of transition into adulthood,
Mm-hmm.
and then just queer individuals with just concerns about, their sexual identity, their orientation, reconciling past trauma because of what they had been dealt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the intersection that I find myself at in providing services around those different key areas.
Gotcha. And so, with some of those key areas and the folks that you've interacted with and have been able to help and kind of
Mm,
focus on them and focus on the different things that they're doing, how is because there's a huge stigma, right, against mental
mm,
health and against
true.
going in to see somebody. So how does that and there's a major one I know also for the military. So,
Hmm.
for myself being a prior service and stuff, there was an absolute huge stigma about going to see a mental health provider because, you shouldn't be doing it and then you'd be hung out to dry later. So how do we, you know, why do you think that is? And how do we kind of get through that process so that we
Mhm.
can get the help we need?
Sure. Szu-Moy, first off, thank you for your service. I feel like
Thank
many
you.
men, women, individuals, they find themselves serving the country and giving up a lot. Uh,
Mhm.
and just to be able to defend and afford the certain rights and responsibilities and freedoms that we have. So that shouldn't go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, and for stigma, it's amazing. I find myself
Mhm.
year after year in this time frame of May, finding that we're still here in this place of fight the stigma. That's our theme this year, 2022. Fight the stigma, and
Yeah.
it's still hanging around. I feel like it's like an iceberg that we're slowly carving away at, right?
Mhm.
And so I look at there's a lot of different things that are pulling into that argument. One of those things being a cultural reference. Um, and so it's just, I see myself with a lot of men who are coming into my practice. And one of the questions we ask up front, have you ever done this before? It's like,
Mhm.
no, not really.
Right.
And we find that females typically will find themselves accessing mental health care services far more often than men.
Mhm.
And most of it could be really boiled down to narratives of, it's kind of weird for me, Josh, to talk about my innermost secrets and complaints and concerns with somebody that I'm not related to, right?
Right.
So that's one of those things that's different. The second one would be just admitting that you need help.
Mhm.
Um, especially here in the Western side of the world where we have a huge emphasis on independence, right?
Mhm.
And just like, no, I got it. I got
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
together. And it's almost like if you walk down the street and you talk to somebody, I feel like most of us will say when somebody asks us the question, hey, how you doing? You
Mhm.
default to I'm fine, right?
Yes, and you're
It,
not. You're not. You put a
no.
smile on your face and you're like, I'm great. Yeah, how are
Yeah.
you? And it
Yeah.
deflect, right?
Very much
Yeah.
so. Whether it
Mhm.
be reasons of, I got this, I'm strong and
Mhm.
independent, I don't need somebody, or it
Mhm.
just comes down to really, do people want to spend that much time and actually just give a damn about
Mhm.
hearing what I have to say and what I've been through?
Mhm.
And sometimes that is no.
Mhm.
Um, and then lastly, I think it's just not only cultural, not because of the influence of where we are at in the United States being hugely reliant upon independence, but then I also think of, repercussions, right? And what does it
Mhm.
mean to, access mental health services? And for something like that, I look at how we as a society have transformed our mindsets. In the past, I would even say decade, right? You look at something like back in the day, going to see your shrink meant
Mhm.
that you were nuts,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so far too often, I feel like a lot of us hang on to that age old, outdated,
Mhm.
cliche understanding of like, for me to access mental health means that I'm
Mhm.
losing it. I'm going
Yeah.
off the deep end, and to access mental health, I've exhausted everything.
Mhm.
And really, it doesn't have to get to that place,
Mhm.
right? My hope for us as a society, as individuals, wherever you
Mhm.
are, is that we can start to view mental health services and mental health treatment just as commonplace and preventative as it is to see a primary care physician on an
Mhm.
annual basis, to get a
Mhm.
checkup, to have a safe place where you can process through whatever's going on here from head to heart
Mhm.
with a licensed individual that's there for you, trained for you in a confidential environment.
Yep, because and I'm a proponent for that, and I've always talked to folks and always said, I'm the first one to say it. Yes, I've been there, done that, had to, because again, it was like, oh, I need a breather. I do feel like
Mm,
I'm maybe I've already gone over that threshold, right? Because we are the independent the person, our people are independent, and it's just like I waited too long. But after that fact, it was just like, nope. I'm a proponent of, hey, it's okay to talk to somebody that is a third party because a lot of the times you're going to talk to somebody that's your friend or somebody that is related to you, and
Mm-hmm.
they may not give you the advice or may not be listening to you in the fact that or in the way a trained professional is going to, and that actually may do more harm than good, right? And how many times have
True.
you seen that, right?
Far
So
too often. Far too often. You
yeah.
know, and it's really nice also that we're getting to a place in time with insurance kind of catching
Hmm.
up, right?
Hmm.
I would say a good 85% of our insurance plans don't have a mental health benefit kind of carved
Hmm.
in.
Okay.
Um, and so people find that they have to go out of pocket, to
Hmm.
access mental health care at just a standard rate. I'm glad that during open enrollment periods for insurance
Hmm.
plans, whether it's from government-sponsored health care with Medicare, Medicaid, or
Hmm.
healthcare exchange, all the way up to anything commercial, you're starting to see more health plans start to
Hmm.
include services like this, or even employee assistance programs. Those are always nice to
Hmm.
have, depending on your employer.
Hmm. And then how many folks are left untreated because of that? Because of the fact that they don't have the insurance, or it's not, they don't have the money to pay for it.
Yeah,
There's probably
I
a
would say
lot.
in a given caseload that I have right
Hmm.
now, we're looking at maybe um, a 50-50 split, 50 doing insurance, 50 doing just private pay or some kind of sliding scale arrangement.
Hmm.
Um, and that's really nice. And Helen, I see you out there interacting with
Hmm.
us, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes the kind of services that we do, Szu-Moy, you're a consumer of mental health services,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes it's not always the right fit. And
Hmm.
that can be for any kind of relationship, right? Unlike
Hmm.
medical services, where we rely heavily upon lab tests, blood, urinalysis, whatever, and it's
Hmm.
very time limited, the time that we spend with the actual practitioner.
Hmm.
Counseling and psychotherapy don't really work that way, does it?
Hmm.
Bad grammar.
Hmm.
Where it's hugely
Nobody's listening. La, 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 la.
okay. I blame this, but hugely relational, right? And
Yeah.
it's it boils down to if it's not a good fit relationally,
Hmm. Hmm.
personality wise, or even just therapeutic modality, what your therapist is
Hmm.
going out of, that's fine. You might have to shop around for a bit, but
And I
that right
agree. I
person is out there.
agree. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's a big, huge thing too, because and something that I talk with a lot of folks on as well, because there's folks that are like, oh, you've been through a lot of stuff. Yes, I have anxiety. I have depression. It's noted in my records. It's aggressive, is what they called it. So I'm like, okay. I have PTSD too. So I have all these things lumped in together. And it's just like, the first couple of times I went and said, I can't take it anymore. I need to go find somebody. The first person I found was good. The second person, they left, and I had to be transitioned to another person. They were fantastic. And then after that, I didn't, I had to shop around because, when that person left to move on to a new location, what do I do now? And so now I've got to shop around, and the next couple of folks were not good, not a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have
Yeah,
to shop, and you have to find the person that fits with you, because then you'll get the help you need, right?
truly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some of the signs or symptoms of somebody encountering mental health issues that, like,
Mm-hmm.
as a maybe like a bystander, can kind of look out and make sure that we're checking out for one another and looking out for
Yeah.
one another? Because I know we always do that in the military. Check your six. Where's my battle
Mm-hmm.
buddy at? Kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
what do you think that on your side of the house? What do we need to be looking for?
Checking your sex. I like that.
That's right. You got my
Um,
back. Yep.
and so isn't that how it is in just our
Hmm.
personal networks, whether it be somebody that's our neighbor, right? Somebody that we work with that's a colleague, or even just a close friend or family member, being able to see those signs of something going
Hmm.
on. I'm going to make a shameless plug here. There's a training out there for individuals just like yourself, myself.
Hmm.
It's called Mental Health First Aid, similar to us getting trained in first aid, but it helps people who are outside of the mental health field
Hmm.
be able to do that and be trained. And I'm really thankful where I come from in Augusta, they did a training with the police force,
Okay.
right? Far too often you'll see first responders accessing some kind of emergency, and a
Hmm.
huge percentage of those are like, well, you're not in imminent danger, sir, ma'am. So we're going to leave.
Hmm.
And it could be sensed as something else going on there. So being able to train our first responders to know when something could be going on that might not be, a physical emergency, but maybe an
Hmm.
indicator of something mental. Things we
Hmm.
look for would be um, what they're kind of manifesting in terms of personal affect,
Hmm.
right? So affect is kind of one of those clinical terms we use as like a facial representation of what their emotions are going on or are telling them on the inside, right? So we've all seen it, usually around payday, or it might just be, walking through the grocery store and somebody's on the phone and you can just kind of read their face of like what that
Hmm.
person's telling them on the other end, what they're going through,
Hmm.
right? But I feel like what would be hugely appropriate for those of us out there with close friends and family is to know when somebody's off, right?
Hmm.
So like if I was to be engaging, with myself, I'm a hugely extroverted being, looking for things like, well, Josh isn't going out that much anymore. He's not returning
Hmm.
my phone calls. I know him to be this in a standard non-COVID world, right? Disclaimer.
Right.
And
Hmm.
so when somebody's kind of deviating from how you know themselves to be,
Hmm.
that would be kind of like one thing that you would want to kind of run through the smell test, right?
Hmm.
Of asking, hey, out external process comment, Szu-Moy. I've
Hmm.
noticed that
Hmm.
you haven't been going out as much. I've noticed
Hmm.
that I haven't seen you at the kids' baseball games in quite some time. Just wanted to check in on you. How's everything going?
Hmm.
Um, we can talk about different ways to kind of like ask those open-ended questions instead of just giving them a binary response of yes, no. Oftentimes they'll pick I'm fine, right? Default mode.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so look for those things of just like
Hmm.
outside the standard norm. Another thing would be a warning side would be, are they giving up anything that they
Hmm.
previously enjoyed? Right. So whether it be music, maybe going
Hmm.
outside doing running, or maybe attending or doing some kind of dance or social class, right? That they're no longer engaging in those things and they've kind of just disappeared. Look for those warning signs as well. Um, and similar to just what's going on here in this COVID world, not only is depression running rampant, anxiety, my friend.
Big time. Yes,
Hmm.
yes,
Hmm.
exactly. Hmm.
And so, working a standard 9 to 5 in corporate America, I'm sure will run anybody ragged, right?
Hmm.
And then just the kind of external pressure of just anything that's going on at a political level or just like in a healthcare emergency level just adds
Hmm.
in on that
Hmm.
worldview and that existence that
Hmm.
that we're all dealing with. So looking for the affect that's going on in the face, looking for anything that a person could be withdrawing from or not engaging with that's outside the norm for them, and you're wanting to look at, um, I think, just how they handle themselves, right? Another warning sign is, are they disheveled? Is their speech kind of slurred? Is anything going on there? Um, and does it seem like this is against the status quo for how I know Szu-Moy or Josh to be?
Hmm.
Right.
And then having those frank conversations too, because if not, you're just a bystander. And sometimes people need to have that frank conversation. Sometimes they are on that brink and breaking point to
Mm,
where they need to have like they need somebody to reach out and be like, "Are you okay?" you know,
hmm.
and then it will open that door for them to at least have that conversation with you and maybe get some help, right?
Yeah. And Helen, I
Yeah,
see you out there too saying with the COVID world, we've noticed more. Yeah.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
I'm glad that people are starting to access mental health services now more than
Mhm.
ever. Just we feel that things are becoming a little bit more rampant, right? And
Mhm.
as pressure is going up, as people are starting to get more on their plate, another thing to look for, you know, as those responsibilities and those different adulting features kind of come into play, there needs to be more self-care placed or more attention going on
Mhm.
to what's going on in here. You know, if you're
Yeah.
adding more responsibility and things you have to do, you need to add just as much on the other end for self-care and
Mm.
self-reflection, right?
Yeah, and I don't think we do a very good job of that entire piece of self-care and self-reflection. I know I don't. It's like, hey, I love yoga, right? It calms me, centers
Mm,
me. And then I'm like,
um,
okay, so I don't have time to do it today, or I don't have time to meditate today. No, I need to make time. It takes 5 minutes
mm.
just to get my breath going and just to
Let
do
me
just
ask
a
you,
few little sun salutations, right?
true. So why is that, as us as high functioning beings,
hmm
when times get tough, the first thing that goes is what treats us well, our wellness
Yeah.
routine. Why
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah. I don't know. It's everything else seems to be so important besides us. And I think we need to make sure that in our minds and our focus, we have that shift to where we're like, you know what? No, I need to make sure that I'm good before I can help everybody else in whatever it is that I'm doing. If I'm a caretaker, if I'm working at Walmart, if I'm whatever it is that you're doing as far as your job, if you're not good with you, and you haven't taken care of you, how could you take care of your family? How can you take care of the rest of whatever it is that's on your laundry list of to do things,
Mm,
right? Yeah, I
agreed.
totally get it.
One of those
Oh.
quotes from Schitt's Creek, right? Moira Rose, she was like, "You've got to put on your own oxygen mask first, dear, before you help other people, right?" And so if you're not taking care of
Absolutely.
yourself, how are you going to take care of somebody else? It's just a matter of
Yeah,
time.
exactly, exactly. All right. So, what are some healthy practices that we can kind of take a look at and do as far as that self care goes?
Sure. Um, I love yoga. You know, I'm a huge
Yes.
proponent of yoga. Me and my husband were just talking about that just a moment ago. Um, where, you know, when you think of yoga, you don't have to be super granola-y to do it, right? Let's go ahead and debunk that myth. And you don't. You know,
Right.
and it doesn't always have to be hot yoga. For anything, Szu-Moy, like
hmm
you mentioned before, it's a place and a time to center and give back to you.
hmm
Whether that's what you're putting into the yoga practice is, I want to come at this of just being mindful and present focused. That is so hella hard these days, isn't it? To be
It is.
present.
Yeah, it is.
I look at
hmm
many of us in the room who might be caregivers or
hmm
parents or spouses, right? And we oftentimes will put other people ahead
hmm
of what we have to do, right? Or we're constantly thinking of, what do I have to do for the kids tomorrow? What's coming down the pike for a certain urgent deadline that I have to
hmm
meet? Our minds are always in the future. And so,
hmm
any kind of moment or exercise that you can do that shifts your frame of thinking to what's here and now
hmm
uh, will always benefit you, right? And sometimes it's that thing where it's just, Josh, it's so hard. You know, it's hard for me to make time for yoga, right? And sometimes it's those things that are hard for us to adopt that we need the most, right?
hmm Yeah, for
Um,
sure, for sure.
so
So
self care,
if you can't stand yoga or you've never done it or you're not interested in it, what else can we do?
sure. So if you're a busy woman on the go, like we both are. I look for
Yes.
different applications that are on your smartphone. We all have one,
Okay.
whether we're engaging with it at night, whether we are on the go at Target, not wanting to socialize, just in focus. There's a lot of great free apps there. Headspace, Calm, right?
Okay.
That really promote breathing exercises and awareness of the body and self in the moment, right?
hmm
Those are great resources that I have, whether I'm going to something, coming away from something, dedicate a quick 5 to 10 minutes.
hmm
That can be with music, that can be with breath work, that can be with somebody guiding you through something thoughtful, Diana, like a prayer, right?
hmm
Also,
Yeah.
depending on where you're at geographically and how the weather is outside, mindfulness meditation does not always have to be, again, let's debunk it. You don't have to do like this and say sitting on a yoga mat, right?
Yes, for
You
sure.
can do active meditation.
hmm
Something that some of my people who really struggle with slowing down and are very action oriented individuals that say,
hmm
Josh, my mind just wanders a mile a minute when we're sitting down. Go outside. Distance yourself from technology first and foremost,
Mhm.
and just be able to catch yourself being aware of what's around you.
Mhm.
So noticing your neighbor's car. Is it black? Is it white? What
Mhm.
kind of make and model is it? How many trees are on your block that are actually blooming right now as we're getting into the summer season? What
Mhm.
is the smell that's in the air at 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, on a Friday night?
Mhm.
Being able to recognize what your senses are telling you that's happening in the moment will definitely help shift your frame of focus from being on the go, thinking about what's happening next, to
Mhm.
being here right now. Breath, your
Mhm.
senses, mindfulness meditation, apps are your friends, yoga is always there. And then, first and foremost, I think dedicate time to your sleep hygiene, right?
So explain a little bit about sleep hygiene, because I know so many people don't know what that is.
Mm.
So many don't.
Sure. It's almost kind of that same term or same phrase that we said before, right? Szu-Moy, of putting on your own oxygen mask first.
Mhm.
And so, if we're talking about just for the busy professional or the overworked, underpaid parent that's out there, we all have 24 hours in a day. Use them wisely. And so, sleep
Mhm.
hygiene is coming up with a wonderful sleep schedule that is consistent
Mhm.
for you. So, whether it's just I got 5 hours today, I'll go ahead and overcompensate tomorrow and I'll get 11 to make up for it. Um, One of the great things is being consistent with anything. Szu-Moy, just
Mhm.
like me and you as relational beings, to keep
Mhm.
our relationship with one another, it takes time,
Mhm.
consistency put
And
into this
effort, and
relationship.
effort. Yes.
So put that same kind of effort in yourself and
Mhm.
give yourself a long runway time if that's what you need. My husband, for instance, he's somebody I can fall asleep at the drop of a hat, but for him, it takes him time to wind down. And
Mhm.
some individuals are that way, that have
Mhm.
a very cerebral kind of mindset that their mind's always thinking.
Mhm.
Um, Distance yourself from any kind of technology and television at least 30 minutes before you know when your bedtime's coming,
Mhm.
right? Go ahead and kind of set the mood. Just kind of like you were doing any kind of like intimate work with a spouse or a partner, do it for yourself.
Mhm.
Set your bed how you'd like it, turn on aromatherapy how you would like it. Do Change the mood lighting, right? This is your
Mhm.
time. Sleep
Mhm.
is for you. Make it restorative and spend a lot of time on the forefront guiding yourself into that consistent sleep. And depending on age, try to get between 7 and 8 hours if you can manage. But most of all,
Mhm.
make those restful hours of sleep, right?
You're talking to CN at this point in time, right?
Suyin, where are you?
Yeah, she's all like, I do not get seven. There's no way. I will never. So,
Yeah,
and my son has a hard time with sleep too. So, I know it is a huge factor that we can't function without good sleep hygiene. I know that, and so this is huge. This is huge. So, I hope folks are listening to that
disclaimer.
and kind of setting it up. Hmm.
Szu-Moy, almost kind of thinking of it as like a bank account, right? Like even though you're
Hmm.
putting in your savings in your retirement right now, you're like, oh, I wish I can just like use that money right now for that nice pair of shoes or for that vacation down to Clearwater. I
Hmm.
get it.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
like you have to trust yourself to say this is going to pay off at a certain place in time.
Hmm.
Alzheimer's, dementia, a lot of
Hmm.
neurocognitive diseases. Clinical evidence will tell you
Hmm.
um, lack of sleep. Go ahead and contribute for a higher risk factor towards developing
Wow.
those diseases later on in life,
Wow.
right?
Oh, I had no
So
idea. Wow, that's
So
interesting.
whenever I'm having that argument between me and a patient, me and
Hmm.
my husband, of just like, well, let's watch Schitt's Creek, just like two more episodes. It's like, nope, it'll be here tomorrow. You're
Cut it
worth it.
off.
Your
We're going to
brain is
bed.
worth it.
Yeah,
Let's go
yeah.
ahead and shift the tides against our predisposition for Alzheimer's
Hmm.
disease, right?
Exactly, exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna close with what's your favorite thing about the job that you're doing now as as the director of development?
Sure. Not only do I like to provide services,
Mhm.
for the people I come into contact with here in the greater Florida area, but also um, being able to work with different unique individuals like Suyin to extend our credibility and visibility out there for anything that we're doing mental health related and beyond.
Mhm.
Being able to develop our brand image, the awareness of psychotherapy resources,
Mhm.
rehabilitation, everything like that. My position helps afford and create dedicated time towards transitioning that image into our greater Florida area, establishing more of a footprint and shifting those tides so that maybe in 2022 we have less of that defeat the stigma and more of just
Mhm.
it's normal.
Yeah, it is normal. Oh, one thing I want to touch on really quickly too is you had made a comment the last time we talked about how within your practice,
Mm?
you'll be out of a job.
Ah,
You remember that?
that resonated,
Ex Yeah, yeah, it
huh?
did. And it explained that to our audience and to our folks because it like just like the chiropractor, like I go to a chiropractor. I don't go all
Mm,
the time, right? I
mm,
go until I go and then I don't go anymore. And why is that? Because I don't need him
mhm,
anymore. And I shouldn't need him every day. And
mm,
so in the same vein, in the same token, if you're seeing a mental health practitioner, you're going to see a provider for that. You shouldn't see them continuously forever and ever because why?
yeah. And sometimes, ask yourself, if you are
Hmm.
being that recipient or customer of any kind of medical or behavioral health service, right? It's you have to think of like, why am I doing this? Ask your
Hmm.
question internally, why?
Hmm.
And far too often do we find ourselves becoming dependent on these practitioners out there, right?
Hmm.
And so, like we were talking about before, my end game in providing services for those people I come in contact with isn't to create me as a crutch for them for their own psychological and mental well being, right? It's so that within this safe space, we create whatever it is that that individual needs, whether it's healing from past traumatic history, whether it's assertion, whether it's clarity of thought. And then we start to build that out and make it impactful in their world outside of that office. So we foster that growth here between us individuals one to one as like a
Hmm.
microcosm.
Hmm.
And then we have that individual use that in their day to day life so that, like you said, they're no longer reliant upon a mental health clinician like myself. And I love the metaphor of my clients come in with a suitcase, right? We open that suitcase up, we look at all those nice little delicious things that are in there. We
Hmm.
decide what's outdated, what's tired and worn out and holey and needs to go. What's something that they like that
Hmm.
has worked well for them, coping styles, right? But maybe it's like a an old set of tires where that tread is worn off and it needs to be enhanced a little bit. And then what needs to be added? And then we zip up that suitcase, we terminate our relationship and then they go on. And
Hmm.
then something else might come on and they realize, all right, I need to come back in for maintenance, or maybe something else has come into my life that's new. And I find
Hmm.
myself awares in my own person and my own skin that I might need a safe place to process or another set
Hmm.
of skills to defeat or counter whatever's come in my worldview. But yeah, it's you shouldn't have to see somebody routine for the rest of your life. Work people like me out of a job. That's what we're here to do.
There you go. There you go. And I love that. Yes, that did resonate because some people and some providers, practitioners, even like the chiropractor, whoever, that doesn't always, that's not their business model or that's not their practice. But I think that you shouldn't have that crutch for anything for that extended amount of time. So I think that's good.
Mm,
I want to thank you again for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Did you have anything else to add at all?
hmm.
Hmm.
You know,
Besides that nice shirt that you have on.
ew, Szu-Moy, ew, David.
Ew,
Uh,
David.
I think in just the reason that we're connected today in this precarious place and time in May, right, is
Mhm.
just being able to give back to yourself. Mental health is not a scary place. We're
Mhm.
all made up with the same core ingredients as individuals here on this earth. your mental state, your emotional state. You know what you're capable of handling. And if you find yourself answering the question of, I'm living my life the best way I know how to, and it's not going to get any better. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. But if you
Mm-hmm.
find that there is some wiggle room and that the life that you've currently lived, maybe things can be enhanced, and maybe you're finding that there is room for improvement or maybe a sense of change, reach out to
Mm-hmm.
somebody in your local area. Whether it's in Tampa, Florida, I'd love to have you, or accessing something in your local area. Pages like Psychology Today can really help you be in connection with a local mental health professional in your area and will allow you that chance to just get to know them before you meet them in person. Like Diana or Helen were saying, it's relational.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to shop
Mm-hmm.
around, but that
You
fit will be
definitely
out
do.
there.
You do.
Yeah.
So if so, do you actually do virtual sessions as well? Then I mean,
Mhm.
we're not in Tampa, like our audience is
I know.
global, and
Yeah.
so is there the possibility for you to do virtual sessions within your practice? Also, is that something that you all provide? Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So
Yeah, we
can
do
we
in
add that to
person.
the? Okay, you do in person and virtual.
Hmm.
Awesome. So we can add your business to the thread after this, and then we can go ahead and if anybody needs some help, then they can contact Josh through the thread
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And
Awesome.
I would
Awesome.
love to be able to extend to our viewing audience today, just a connection. If you are finding yourself that you're not in my coverage area of Florida,
Mhm.
but you want to be able to be put in connection with somebody who can help, just let me know what you're looking for, and I'll try to get my fingers out there and see who's in your greater area that would be a match to you and make that introduction. It's a small place, but it's a large place, this
Yeah,
arena
for
of
sure.
mental health. And so would love to make that conversation maybe not so scary, not so
Mhm.
foreign. Let me be able to help.
Awesome. I appreciate you so much, Josh, for coming on. So just for fun, we've got our speed. He's like, I got to take a drink after this. Just for fun, just for fun, we've got our speed round so our audience can understand you just a little bit more, and at least the
Try me.
fun side of it, besides the cute clothes you got on. So, just for fun, are you a morning person or are you a night person, a night owl?
Morning. I
What?
sunset at like
Morning.
8 p.m. Like, don't even turn on a movie at 8 p.m. I'm dead.
We're
No, like,
closing to we're closing in on 8 p.m. for you right now. Uh-oh, he's like, I'm slowing down, I'm slowing down. Okay, chocolate or vanilla? That's not that
vanilla.
hard. Vanilla.
Vanilla.
Okay,
I
vanilla.
say that because if my husband's in the room, that's a fight that we have. I'm not a chocolate person.
Oh
He is, though. That's
no.
his love language, chocolate.
And you're like, I'm vanilla. Okay, beach or
Mm.
mountains?
Beach.
Beach. Okay.
Hmm.
Sweet or salty?
Both? Can
No,
I?
no.
Okay, all right. So I love to bake sweet, but I love like bake for other people sweet, but I love to consume salty.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha, gotcha. All right, so if you could vacation anywhere in the world, all expense paid, there is no issue with money, where would you go right now, this second?
Um, easy. Um, South Korea.
South
Uh,
Korea. Interesting. Okay, why?
so I
That's
taught abroad there
interesting.
for three
Mhm.
and a half years. I met some
Okay.
best friends that I've ever could have made in my life there. And I'd say that that's the motherland for me. And I want to
Okay.
introduce my husband to South Korea because it was very formative for me,
Hmm.
accessible. And they always say if you are somebody who's wanting to travel into a foreign country, South Korea is a great place to start because the huge
Okay.
presence of the English language there. They have a lot of
Okay.
ESL programs. And so you
Mhm.
can get around very easily and just open yourself up to a whole new culture without having to prep for it.
Okay, so everybody, because I never went to Korea. I was stationed in Japan, so I spent a lot of time in Japan, and a lot of
Mhm.
them do speak English,
Yeah.
but I never made it out to Korea. So, okay, okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you being here. And for the folks out there that are on Facebook, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel is under Szu-Moy, and click the bell so you can get all of the notifications of the things that we're doing. that are upcoming or that are just recently posted. Next week, we're going to talk food again with a good friend of mine, Maria, and her restaurant that she owns. So thank you so much. And everybody have a great weekend and a happy Mother's Day. And thank you so much, Josh.
Bye, Szu-Moy. Thanks again.
Bye. Take care.